They weren't fleeing. They were actually going out to spend money and invest it, but when they didn't come back and Parsons didn't see any hope of regaining any of his funds, he did pursue them. Then they realized they were fleeing. Parsons tried very hard by magic to get the money back. You're right, it didn't work. He had to go to court. And by August of 1946, he had settled with Parsons and he had married Sarah Northrop. Was a little problem. He hadn't yet divorced Polly, but that would happen a year later. By 1949, he was known to be working on a philosophy. By that time, he was quite renowned. His picture was on all kinds of science fiction magazines, and he was doing really quite well. By 1950, he'd gathered a small group around him who were interested in what he was doing and his ideas. They were fascinated with Ron's ideas. And they founded the Hubbard Dianetic Research Foundation in Elizabeth, New Jersey. May 9th of 1950, Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, was published. And by July, it had become a bestseller. And Ron was offering courses at $500 a head. What is Dianetics? According to L. Ron Hubbard, it is a science of the mind. But I'll let him tell it. Of what must a science of mind be composed? 1, an answer to the goal of thought. 2, a single source of all insanities, psychoses, neuroses, compulsions, repressions, and social derangements. 3, invariant scientific evidence as to the basic nature and functional background of the human mind. 4, techniques, the art of application, by which the discovered single source could be invariably cured, ruling out, of course, the insanities of malformed, deleted, or pathologically injured brains or nervous systems, and particularly iatrogenic psychoses, those caused by doctors and living in the destruction of the living brain itself. 5, methods of prevention of mental derangement. 6, the cause and cure of all psychosomatic ills, which number, some say, 70% of men's listed ailments. Science? I don't think so. There was, however, no mention of religion, no mention of spirituality. I think it really was more psychotherapy. What did it propound? Well, very, very simply, that the mind is composed of 2 parts, the analytical and the reactive. Now, the analytical mind could and should be and operate as a perfect computer. Not just a good computer, a perfect one. But it was the reactive mind that held it back. The reactive mind came complete with an engram bank, and it kept messing things up for the poor analytical, perfect computer mind. What is an engram? An engram was what Hubbard and his friends that had gathered around had finally hit upon to call these things. They're bad experiences. They're things that have happened to us throughout our life. And we could totally recall them. We also had many, many bad experiences in the womb. As a mother, having been pregnant 3 times and reading about Hubbard's idea of what it was like there in the womb, I was kind of glad I really had waited till after I had all my 3 children before I read Dianetics. An awful lot of emphasis on abortions and sloshing and jogging, my goodness, and intercourse, all those terrible things I did to all of my poor children. There's some, frankly, absolutely wrong things in here, too, that kind of make me a little bit angry. I mean, Hubbard says that you can poke a fetus full of holes with knitting needles over and over. Nothing happens. And the child isn't aborted. Well, that's just plain baloney. Would hurt the child, it would hurt the mother, you know, and it certainly was written before Roe v. Wade, that's for sure. What could you do to help this poor analytical mind? Hubbard said it was fairly simple. You simply recall all of these bad experiences. Once you recalled them, they would no longer bother you, and the analytical mind would be able to work perfectly. This is a technique, one of many, many techniques used. It's called abreaction. It can help to recall some experiences, but I dare say I don't believe it can turn any one of us into a perfect computer. But Dianetics came, complete with instructions, and everyone could do it. Books sold, and Hubbard's lectures were filled. Rollo May was not quite as impressed with Dianetics as some others were. He said it was, quote, oversimplified form of regular psychotherapy mixed with hypnosis. And he said books like this do harm by their grandiose promises to troubled persons and by their oversimplification of human psychological problems. Look was a little bit more critical. They said 500,000 laymen swallowed this poor man's psychiatry. Hubbard has demonstrated once again that Barnum underestimated the sucker birth rate.